come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog. We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today.
So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Yes, let's do that. Let's dive in. Hello. Kevin, we're ready to go on another episode of the Vlog on a Blog, where we consider the vlog that is posted in social media with some comments. This is going to be a little bit unique in that we're going to do more listening to some of the other vloggers than we are simply going to comment before they have a chance to say their piece. In this particular situation, I want to play a little bit of what he has to say. We're not going to go through the whole thing. It's way too long for that. But I want you to get a sense of what he has to say. You're probably going to have to, you can start it, and then we're going to have to jump ahead to maybe 10 to 15 minutes in to get some meat, and then I'll explain the whole concept of what's actually going on here, and perhaps even you'll click on the see more, and we'll be able to explain this. This is actually a very, very important post.
Right now, the story they're hiding from you. Every story you have been told about Iran over the last 20 years has been told
so
from the
what he's doing here is he's introducing what's
from the perspective of Washington
and you can just stop for a second, then we'll go to maybe 10 minutes.
The truth about
what he is saying here is that that everything that we're hearing about Iran is actually misguiding people, that it is leading them away from being able to be in a position to make an intelligent deduction of what is occurring. And I'm going to summarize it somewhat, and then we'll play a little bit more of it. What he is saying, and this is an AI speaker and an AI voice and an AI analysis, but it's a exceedingly good one, and it is reasonably well researched. And to a large degree, I agree with the the conclusions. He's saying that the economy in Iran is essentially destroyed, that their currency has fallen 90% in the past decade against the dollar, which has also fallen precipitously in value. So when you have a currency that has fallen precipitously against a currency which has fallen precipitously, your currency has been essentially destroyed. And that this occurs because of inflation, and inflation occurs because people are increasing the monetary supply so that you become the debtor by having the currency that you own debased. That's how the U.S. debt is being funded now, is that the debtors are the U.S. citizens who are having their financial savings eroded to fund America's indulgences. All right, so he's saying the currency is in shambles. And he's saying that the economy is in shambles, with about half of Iran's youth unemployed. They're exceedingly well educated and they can't get jobs. His next contention, and I think both of those statements are true. His next contention is that as a result, when you study Persian, Farsi written journalistic pieces and communication within Iran, what you find is that about 70% of Iranians want to leave Iran. They have given up on the Islamic regime delivering a life worth living. In other words, when the Islamic regime was put in place by Jimmy Carter and replaced the Shah, who was actually a reasonable human being trying to take care of his people, the economics crumbled. And this is standard for Islam. And you can't find an Islamic country where there is any sense of real industry. This is because Muhammad created a non-work-oriented economic system that was based strictly on plundering other people, enslaving other people, taxing other people, plundering other people. And this is what Islam has always been reduced to. So there is no economy, and most people are against their government. Now, when that occurs, and it's occurred in many places around the world. It's occurring right now in the United States. It's occurring right now in Israel. It's occurring right now in Europe. When this occurs, and he's specific to Iran, I'm going to be more general, that the people in power always respond the same way. They create an existential threat to the country. So they say, in the case of Iran, Israel and the United States are trying to destroy you. And they need Israel and the United States to attack them. And so they will do everything in their power, including creating enormous amounts of refined uranium-235, even without a bomb, to encourage the United States to attack them and Israel to attack them. They'll fund Hezbollah for the express purpose of being attacked, because without that attack, without that external threat being credible, they can't hold against their government. This is a part of this psychology of almost every dying country. Universal. And it's happening, and it's for the last 47 years has been an occurrence in Iran. The Islamic regime cannot create conditions that are conducive to the benefit of the people of Iran. True of all Islam. And so all they can do is say, Israel and the United States are trying to destroy you, and we need to galvanize together to defend our homes, our people, our way of life. And what that means is that by attacking Iran, rather than precipitating regime change, the United States and Israel solidified the regime. Had they not attacked Iran, the regime would ultimately have fallen. I'll talk about putting Israel and the United States in a stupid position where they did exactly what they should not have done.
Yeah, that they were on the ropes. They were on the ropes. All you have to do is nothing. And yet you turn around and you try to come in with this big win, with this Operation Roaring Lion and Operation whatever, to say, hey, no, we changed the, you thought it was going to be an easy knockout. We changed the regime. It didn't fall on its own, right?
Correct.
And because you want
we galvanized the support of the regime that didn't previously exist. Exactly. The other thing that he makes is a valid point is that there's this misconception that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is strictly a militant organization. They are not. They are essentially the government of Iran, and they are the primary drivers of the economy of Iran. And they own most of the industry in Iran, and they have made their industry the military industrial complex, and have garnered enormous amounts of wealth, even under sanctions. And all that the U.S. sanctions have done is impoverish the average citizen, hurting them, but not the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're creating a larger distinction between the force that they're trying to stop and the people that they would like to rise up against them. We're actually creating a situation where we're making it impossible for the average citizen to rise up against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, because we're enriching one while depriving the other. Again, counterproductive.
Yeah, it blew my mind that I mean, I knew that the Iranian dinar, what I think is their currency, was low, has been losing value. But I mean, to suffer, this is like in the last year, 45% inflation in Iran.
In one year.
That's
in 1 year.
1 year. That's not,
but that is what America, by the way, that's what America's headed towards too.
Sure. Yeah.
So there are 2 points here. Point one is that the U.S. and Israel accomplished the opposite of their intent.
Mm-hmm.
That is how foolish Trump and Netanyahu were. They accomplished the opposite of their intent, and they were played into that position. That Iran deliberately played them into that position.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was necessary to solidify the government. Without that, the government would have toppled. So that just shows just how lost Israel states are. The second part of this is it's not limited to Iran. It's the exact same thing that's going on with Europe, with Russia being the boogeyman. And since they can't get Putin to be the boogeyman, they're sending their drones and intelligence to Ukraine to demolish Mother Russia, to give Russia no choice but to attack Europe. And it is only by attacking Europe that the governments of Europe can stand.
Mm-hmm.
That's being played exactly the same way. Now, the difference is it's not Russia that is playing the game. It's Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next part of this is, guess what game Trump is playing? Same damn game.
Yeah.
He is doing everything he can do to have wars everywhere, to blame everybody but himself, and therefore to create this sense that MAGAs must galvanize around him to protect their homes, their families, their livelihoods, and everything, that the immigrants are trying to destroy America, that the Iranians are trying to destroy America. Yeah, he claims that if it wasn't for him, that Israel wouldn't exist because Iran would have a nuclear bomb. It's exactly the opposite of what he claims. But this same strategy is at play in America, and it's going to get worse because America no longer has anyone to buy its bonds, which means the only way that the American deficit, where they're turning over about 3 to 4 trillion and debt each year, plus adding a couple of trillion, so it's 6 trillion that they must refinance every year, and no one wants to buy U.S. bonds. So the only thing they can do is quantitative easing, which means that it is Americans that are essentially buying the bonds by having the value of the dollar destroyed. So your price for continuing your country in deficit spending is the destruction of your savings.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to hold it together by creating external enemies, which is why Trump is positioning himself as the new Genghis Khan, as the new Julius Caesar, as the new Alexander the Great and Napoleon. That is why he is presenting himself that way, is he needs to go to war with the world, for the world for Americans to put up with this nonsense and the destruction of their currency and economy. That's a very profound insight that if listeners will pay attention to, you'll know that there's only one solution for this, and that is for them to return to Yahweh and to accept Yahweh's approach to the covenant. That's it. This is game over for the world.
Oh, absolutely. That is the only long-term solution. And when I say long-term, I mean 7-year long-term. Okay. I don't mean, a 30, 20-year plan here. The only long-term solution is YadaYah. Okay.
Yeah.
The short-term solutions are be able to feed your family and be able to be in a position where you can stay out of big messes.
Yes.
But hunker down.
And we can play a minute of this from further into the presentation. But what I want our listeners to know is that the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel were played into the achieving the exact opposite of their pronounced intent with Iran.
What is happening inside Iran right now? The story they're hiding from you. Every story you have been told about Iran over the last 20 years has been told from the outside looking in, from the perspective of Washington policymakers calculating leverage, from the perspective of Israeli military planners assessing threats, from the perspective of European diplomats trying to manage a relationship that has never been manageable on the terms they wanted. Nobody has told you what is happening inside Iran right now. Not because the information does not exist, but because the information is complicated. It is contradictory. It does not fit neatly into the simple narratives that make for clean television segments
it's
and
not all that
uncomplicated
complicated,
policy
and
positions.
it's not contradictory. What it is an opposition to the military-industrial complex and the elected leaders of the United States and Israel. And because it shows both of them, Netanyahu and Trump, having been played for fools and having made a bad situation worse, which is precisely what we said was going to happen. For these reasons, a year ago, they don't want you to know what I have now shared with you, what is the basis of this particular clip, is that rather than destroying Iran and creating regime change, Israel and the United States galvanized it. And that the whole purpose of Iran's funding of Hezbollah and them lobbing some missiles on occasion into Israel, and their refining uranium without building a bomb over the last 20 years was provocation. That was the exact same thing that happened on 10/7. 10/7 wasn't to invade and occupy Israel. It was purely provocation. They wanted to play Israel into doing something that would be destructive for Israel and beneficial for them. And that was to destroy Gaza, turning Israel into a position where they're the pariah of the world. And in this case, it was to attack Iran, which put Iran in a position where it grew to dominance in the region, destroyed America's presence in the region, came to control the Strait of Hormuz as a result, but galvanized a population of nearly 90 million people in favor of a government that they previously despised.
And essentially made Iran sanction proof now. I mean, there is no going back to the days of when we can impose anything on Iran.
Correct. All right, so that was an interesting piece, and we have it now at YadaYah.com. You can play it there. I would encourage you doing so, and encourage you adding comments. If you think he's wrong, prove it. I think he is right on most of his conclusions. Occasionally, he stumbles on his tongue. He doesn't know that it is Islam that has made Iran such a horrible place to live, and that why it has no economy. It's just the nature of the beast that Muhammad created, and it is not actually complicated, and it is not contradictory. It's simply an opposition to the mantra of Trump and Netanyahu, and that's why you're not hearing it. This fellow is normally quite good. I think I have two posts from him today. He has one that is later one that he is not very good on, but on this one he is exceedingly articulate, and he is a very bright fellow economically. He understands the reserve currency status of the U.S. dollar. He understands the petrodollar system. He understands the central banks and currency exchanges. He has a keen understanding of global economics. And what he is saying in this particular presentation, and again, it's available at YadaYah.com on the blog page for people to listen to the entire thing. And he's a very articulate, entertaining guy, so there's no reason not to listen to him. He's saying that we have, after World War II, a new world order was conceived. And in that new world order, it was deemed that China be the factory. That's was only true when they were a cheap source of labor. They're not anymore. And so China outmaneuvered this scheme. That Europe be the consumption, the marketplace where things are purchased. And that the United States would play the enforcer. It would supply the currency, the money, and the military to enforce this rearrangement of resources and this world order game. But unfortunately, by offshoring production, the United States became a dependent and very hollow country. There is no basis to the U.S. economy anymore because the U.S. doesn't make anything. So America was essentially destroyed in their scheme. And China became ultimately more powerful than anyone else in their scheme because they didn't stop at just being the factory. They became the inventor. And they became the only sound fiscal system in the world. And that ultimately the United States, and part of this was that Japan and other countries like Japan would be the bankers of the world. Japan kept its interest rates at zero, but now has a debt to GDP ratio that is staggering. Right? When it's about 2 to 1 in the United States, it's like 10 to 1 in Japan. I mean, they're the most bankrupt country on earth. And so the whole thing has imploded. And now the petrodollar system is decaying, so that China is disgorging, as is Europe, as is Japan, U.S. Treasury bonds. And the whole petrodollar system was that we provide the military might to enforce this plan, where you're destroyed if you step outside of the lines, and you are rewarded if you play along with the game. But the problem is that the U.S. military has faltered tremendously, and the U.S. has weaponized its currency so that it's no longer a safe bet. So all bets are off, and this Iran conflict devastated the whole plan, so that there is no one to buy U.S. debt. And with no one to buy U.S. debt, he ends it by saying what I've just said previously, that America's debt is now funded by them robbing you of the value of your savings.
Yeah, we can't offshore it. Yeah.
So that's it. Your savings is destroyed because the dollar is very quickly going to become worthless.
Yeah, something that I didn't quite understand in this is a couple points. The first one is I didn't understand where Japan fit into this, because you have China. This is post World War II. You have China that was liberated from the Japanese threat, right, during World War II. You have America and you have Europe. And so Japan being an axis, how did they get pulled into this, that, hey, you're going to be the financier at 0% interest rates, when Japan was known for its manufacturing of chips and electronics in the 80s and 90s?
He's simplifying it and dumbing it down for an online audience. As I said, China really didn't volunteer to be the manufacturing base of the world, and China, of course, has outsmarted everybody by being the innovator of the world and now dominant in that role. And Europe didn't volunteer to be the consumers, and U.S. didn't volunteer to bankrupt its own system by not making anything and offshoring everything. And Japan certainly didn't anticipate having a debt to GDP ratio of 10 times, being the most bankrupt nation on earth by a long margin. But it is true that Japan has offered zero interest rates loans for a long time. So it's really an interesting situation, the way it has all played out. So he's really more talking about the way it played out as opposed to the way it was conceived. And so he's wrong and right.
Using the term plan makes it very conspiratorial, because you were one of the first people in China, and no one told you, hey, we need you to go to China. This is the plan. No. There was an opportunity there. You saw it, and
China had a source of low labor rates, and it was there were certain things that were sent there to be made, sneakers and apparel and things like that. That is no longer the case. Enterprise zones changed all of that, where China became the industrial base of the world now. It's not just a place of cheap labor. In fact, they don't even have cheap labor. It's the industrial and innovative manufacturing base of the world. So it did not play out. I don't think it was planned that way, and it didn't actually play out that way. But he's trying to simplify where the players are and what it has delivered. And in that regard, it's an interesting piece. Jordan Peterson, boy, he's not aging very well. But I would tell you that he needs a mirror in the worst way. We got two pieces on Jordan Peterson. On this piece, he is pretending that he is an intellectual, and that as an intellectual, he has a responsibility for using his intellect for the common good, and that's an absolute responsibility of all people like him who are brighter than everybody else. And what I would tell him is to look in the mirror, because what he has done is he has compartmentalized his life. As a psychologist for years, and as a professor of these things, he made a name for himself, particularly by opposing the rest of the industry. And he opposed it most vehemently on transgender. And he was a voice of sanity against transgenderism among youth, where they're not mature enough to make that determination, on how it was being sold as a positive when the suicide rates are north of 50%. So obviously it is not a net positive. But then he found that evidently there wasn't enough fame, enough fortune, enough influence in doing that. So he became a marketer for Orthodox Christianity. And I watched him make this transition, and was horrified, because he really is an ignoramus when it comes to this. He is thoughtless. He promotes lies and myths. He does not use the same intellect that he used to scrutinize psychology. He shuffles off to the side and promotes all manner of myths related to religion. And it's a travesty. And he becomes nothing but a pure hypocrite. And as I've said here, so why do you compartmentalize your religion and only test the pseudoscience of psychology? Mm-hmm. Why? You're going to make this pronouncement, pal. Man up. And you can't. And you haven't. Yeah. And it's disgraceful.
This one's short.
If you're a sensible thinker and you're a critical thinker, you should subject your own thoughts to the most intense critical analysis possible, knowing that if you put forward second-rate thoughts, you'll act them out, and that will cause you no end of grief. And partly what we're supposed to do in university is teach people to subject their own thoughts to a multiplicity of critical perspectives, so that there's nothing left but wheat, right? So the chaff disappears. If you're
chaff disappears, of course, is a religious concept. But the fact of the matter is that in psychology, which is a pseudoscience, not a real science, there's no real testing. There is no testing in psychology. That in that pseudoscience, he will at least try to apply evidence and reason, even though it's a pretend science. And in his life now, as an influencer, he doesn't do any of that. He does absolutely no critical thinking pursuant to the absolute fraud that is Christianity. Any critical thinker who examines the Christian New Testament will immediately recognize that it is fraud. He can't seem to do that. So he ought not be promoting something that he's a pure hypocrite regarding.
Yeah, you can't take that one aspect of your life and this thing that works so well, critical thinking, literally thinking about your thinking, okay, and not apply it to every possible part of your life because it works so well here. Why you should apply it to everything, right? Religion comes up and it's all just the feels, man. It's just faith. You know, it gives me a warm fuzzy, and it's like, no.
I had a long talk with Perry this morning. We were talking about reason. And I told him that just the realization that the religious, the overtly political, the conspiratorial, and most of the last two millennials and Gen Z are incapable of exercising logic and reason. But even if you could resolve that problem, and it's too late to do so, and with the religious and overtly political and conspiratorial, there is no chance of ever resolving it under any circumstances. There is yet another problem, and the other problem is as big as the lack of logic in people's thinking. And that is that we are now awash in information. And the overwhelming preponderance of people have no filter. They cannot tell what is trustworthy, what is questionable, and what is completely fraudulent. And on social media, you're seeing the fraudulent and the questionable dominate with the algorithms and be mixed together such that it's so much bad information that without discernment, it doesn't matter. Even if you were to try to think about it, it's you're going to end up with nothing but garbage soup, a cesspool. And so I think the biggest problem in our society is that between the media, religion, politics, and academia, we've rendered 2 or 3 generations incapable of filtering the information base itself to discern what is reliable, unreliable, and what should be questioned. And then we have completely, for at least 3 generations, we have completely ignored the skill set known as logic, as the exercise of reason, debate fallacies, rational fallacies. People don't have any concept of what they are. Here's a man that can't apply them either. And he doesn't know how to filter what should not be processed, like the Christian New Testament. It's rubbish. It's totally has to be rejected. But he's not capable of doing that. The political aren't capable of rejecting the lies of whoever it is, Marx or Trump.
Right. And
this is where we are.
The worst part of it is the rationale of things, those little white lies we tell ourselves, because it makes me feel better, as opposed to, we know it's not healthy. We know it's not good thinking, and religion is precisely that.
Yeah, people didn't do that because so few people have a foundation of knowledge of who God is, why we exist, and how we develop a relationship with him. Since that's 1 in a million people, everybody else is clinging to the lie that gives their life purpose. And to examine that lie is beyond their capacity, because it would completely destroy everything they believe, even the very essence of who they are. And so they have no capacity to even begin this process of moving away from or out of the swamp that they have been placed within. And after a while, you don't even know it stinks.
Yeah. In our program, we call that hitting rock bottom. You have to hit rock bottom before you can, kick off the bottom and go up, you just
but I think that the majority, the overwhelming preponderance of people, 8 billion people in the world today, you're going to find that fewer than 10,000 of them are going to recover from hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, this is the one that this got me. I have heard this crap my entire life. This is the one where you owe it to humanity. Yeah.
And he's just not. He's a fraud. And it's just a shame that, in fact, I would say that of the popular influencers now in social media, they're all a fraud. They all think their own shit doesn't stink. They all think that they're shining exemplars for the world, and yet they got nothing. There's not one of them that has ever accomplished anything in their lives, including this fellow. They've never made anything. They've never hired people to manage a business. They never sought investment, tried to create a return on that investment, never written a business plan, tried to carry it out. They've never done anything that would be worthwhile in their life. All they have is their opinions. And even when he was in his prime and he wasn't talking about religion or politics, but was doing his show on psychology and psychiatry, he is pontificating a pseudoscience where there really isn't any evidence or ability to test your conclusions. We're going to get to a woman who wrote a very extensive paper on antidepressants and serotonin. And she has proven that there is no correlation between serotonin and depression, and that there's no causal link between them, and therefore 100% of the industry of antidepressant drugs is faulty. We're giving people things that all they're really doing is deadening their empathy. Nothing else.
Yeah, he goes into here this socialistic idea of each to their ability. That if you're intelligent, you're smart, you owe it to humanity to use that. And I tossed that tripe out when I was 19 years old. I'd been told enough in high school about what you needed to do with your life, and it's like, for me, I just wanted to eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, this is the tripe of Marxism. This is the tripe of collectivism. This is the tripe of religious institutions like Roman Catholicism and Orthodox Christianity and the megachurch mindset, that certain individuals think that they're superior to others, and they begin to spew an agenda that is suited to them for popularity, fame, control, sex, money, whatever it may be. And that's what they do. And it is the essence of Marxism, where those who have never run a business, never been productive in their lives, claim that they're smarter than the people who have done these things. Therefore, they should be in charge of those things. And when you put the people who are smart but unexperienced in charge of such things, you destroy all things. There you go, Jordan. This is another interesting piece. These are just a whole lot of thought pieces. I don't know why. Some days on, when you're going and I'm loading my Facebook page and I'm not even using my Facebook page. I haven't been to my Facebook page in many months now. But this is a little periphery page that we created for no other purpose than this program and to feed the blog on YadaYahowah.com. So I don't post anything there other than things that I think would be interesting for us to talk about on the blog, the blog. This fellow has a great sense of style here. I mean, who could criticize the green shirt with the funky rainbow going through the middle of it?
Is this Bert or Ernie? Which one is he?
Yeah, I think, he is between Kermit and Ernie. But Kermit does Ernie, I think, is what we have here. He's got a really excellent point. I listened to it. I just thought it was fascinating what he had to say. He's talking about the uselessness of influencers, that everybody has an opinion, but nobody has any real courage, has any conviction, has any confidence, and has any experience to talk about their position and how important that is. We can go and play it. It's actually a very articulate presentation.
I want to talk about where criticism comes from. Not all criticism, the useful kind, the kind that comes from people who have skin in the game, who are building something, who have failed publicly and kept going anyway. That kind is worth something. I'm talking about the other kind. The opinion of someone who has never shipped anything, who has never started a company, published the work, had the hard conversation, made the bet, or stood in a room and said, this is what I believe and I'm willing to be wrong. Who is watching from a position of complete safety and telling you what you are doing wrong. Here's what I've learned. Criticism is easy. It requires nothing. You don't have to be right. You do not have to try. You don't have to have anything at stake. Courage is different. Courage costs something. Courage means you could be in front of people, that you could fail publicly, that you could choose to be in the arena when staying out of it was always an option. The person who is being brave with their own life, who is actually in it, actually building, actually risking, that person's feedback, well, it lands differently because they know what it costs. They've paid it. I paused a decades-long legal career at 46 to build a creative life from scratch. The people whose opinions I took seriously during that process were the ones who had done something comparable, who had made the leap that scared them, who understood what it feels like to not know if the bet is going to pay off. Everyone else, I listen politely, moved on. You are not obligated to take seriously the criticism of people who are not being brave in their own lives. The person playing it safe does not get to define the rules for the person taking the risk. Consider the source.
Yeah, I thought that was actually quite good. What I learned very early when I was a businessman and an entrepreneur is that there's a vast chasm of difference in life experiences between somebody who has made a payroll and someone who has not. And that almost all the criticism of entrepreneurs is by someone who's never made a payroll. They don't know what it's like to pay people out of your own pocket and not pay yourself, and you're working 100 hours a week. I don't know what it's like. And until you know what that's like, you really ought not speak on anything economic. That's why when these Marxists are running for political office in the East Coast, I just want to puke. They have zero experience. Their opinions are not only meaningless, they're counterproductive. They've never been there. And if you haven't been there, you really aren't in a position where you can guide anyone else or even talk intelligently about it or manage the process. You're entirely counterproductive. You're disgusting. Now, the same thing is true in life, and it's particularly true in politics, which is the other point I want to make. We have a system where people can vote without having any skin in the game, without having done anything in their lives, without having written anything, without having opposed anything, without having created anything. They just have an opinion. Well, opinion is worthless. It is worthless. Their vote is worthless. They know nothing about economies. They know nothing about history. They know nothing about reality. Their vote is worthless. And therefore, the accumulation of worthless votes is also worthless. System will not work. It has never worked. It will never work. So this, democracy being this greater good, no, it's not. And it's the point that he makes here. You got to have skin in the game. If you don't have skin in the game, if you haven't done something with your life, put it on the line, written it down, articulated it, stood up for it, proved that it was valid. If you haven't lost and gotten back up, you're a nobody. And oh, by the way, you're not just a nobody politically. You're not just a nobody in terms of the online world of opinions. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Jordan Peterson. You're a nobody with God. You are a nobody with God. So he's gone a long way from a lawyer with a $1,000 suit and a Hermes tie to Kermit meets Ernie. But the intellect didn't leave that mind. And to his credit, he's got his hat turned around the right way.
That was the fascinating point for me, because this is obviously what this guy is doing to make money now, right? I mean, he's not doing this just as a hobby. Okay. He said he left a 46-year or a career of legal at 46 to go do this. Yeah. So there's money there. That is insane that someone was, I mean, either that or it's easier to be a lawyer.
Not necessarily. I mean, he's not exactly, you look at the surroundings there. He's not exactly rolling in the cash. And as a guy for that many years being a lawyer is going to have saved a reasonable amount of money. He could be doing this altruistically. He could be a person who is championing doing something for the right reason. Yeah, he might be. I mean, what he has to say here is articulate, and I'm not going to, I'm going to have fun with his apparel because I have fun with my apparel. So that makes it fair game. I'm wearing a shirt today that is from the 1950s, right? That's the last time you saw this pattern, right? Was from the 1950s. So, here we are. I happen to like the guy.
Right.
I think he's onto something.
not having an altruistic bone in my body, I cannot understand altruism. So I'm going to be a skeptic on that side of things. I think that this guy's going to at least be knocking down, or hoping to be knocking down, $20,000, $30,000 a month on YouTube. So,
well, here's a quick refresher on altruism. I've spent the last 25 years devoting 100 hours a week, 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, writing, speaking, while spending my own money to present what I am writing and speaking, and giving everything away free, because I know it's in people's interest. You can't get any more altruistic than that.
This is true.
So it exists.
Ad olam, eternally grateful for it. I will never understand it. Let me just put that.
There you go. That's fair. This is rather serious. You can actually play this too, but look, before we play it, 6.9 in Japan, 5.6 in California, a 7.5 and a 7.2 in Venezuela. Ring of Fire is a little unsettled at the moment. I think, and I don't
What's
think it's
more
the last
interesting
24 hours,
is Venezuela is a completely different plate. Venezuela is close to, but it is not on the Ring of Fire. So that's what I found interesting about all of these.
What's actually interesting is the Caribbean plate, because of the north of here by 20 miles. The sea plunges to depths very seldom seen anywhere on our planet. So there's a lot of plates around the world, but it's not very far, of course, from the Ring of Fire. But
Pacific,
nevertheless, the earthquakes are quite prevalent. Now, my thought here is, of course, when you think of increasing earthquakes, most people go to the Olivet Discourse, where they don't know it's called the Olivet Discourse, but where these are the birth pangs. And the thing I want to point out is that there are two sections of the Christian New Testament that were not written by any of the doofuses that were the proponents of Christ. One is the Sermon on the Mount, which is the single most anti-Christian thing maybe ever spoken. And the second is the Olivet Discourse, which says if anybody claims that they're the Christ, shoot them. They're a fraud. That is not true. And it speaks of a perspective on Jerusalem. And both of them were spoken by Dod, who's the actual Messiah and Son of God. And they were both spoken to the Ebonim, who are essential characters that are prophetically portrayed all the way through the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. And so this megos seismos that was part of that wasn't spoken in Greek, of course, was spoken in Hebrew and recorded in Hebrew, by the way, on the Ebonim, is a prophecy of none other than Dod. You can play this. I think this one's a video. Catastrophic in Venezuela. After Hugo Chavez and Maduro and their Marxism, and now by Trump piracy, that is a really, really rough place to be. I feel sorry for the Venezuelans. Partly they did this to themselves, and partly they allowed Trump to do it to them. Trump could not have kidnapped Maduro or hijacked the government without being able to bribe everybody around Maduro, which is what the CIA essentially does. And right now the CIA has a different form of bribery. It's the same form that the mafia always used. Now that we've killed your superior and we've elevated you to power, we've got a deal for you. You play along with our deal and obey the Godfather, and we allow you to live. And we're going to cut you in on this deal. And you don't, we'll kill you. That's Venezuela today.
Yeah. Just with the catastrophe. I mean, I saw late last night that it was over 60,000 people unaccounted for. And that's just the ones that they know are unaccounted for. They have a website set up where if you're looking for your family, you can't find to kind of,
without a government.
And that's probably what's...
They have no government. I mean, this is a country where their government was stolen from them. It was a crappy government, but nonetheless, it was their government. Their government was stolen from them. Their only source of revenue is stolen from them. And this is happening to them. I mean, imagine the desperation. How many thousand, you say 60,000 people unaccounted for? Yeah, it's devastating.
If only it was Chazak. I don't have a graphic for Kabod. I got to make one.
Kabod. So here they want to make this concept of glory, 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 hallelujah. And what they want is to butcher the Hebrew word for kabod. They'll make it because it's a B, they turn it into a V. It's just a real shame what the rabbis have done to destroy their language, and so that you don't know what letters were actually part of these words. But it's kabod, not kaved. And it is reported to be heavy, but I've been translating for 25 years. I have never seen a single sentence where kabed or kabod, the variations of this, could actually be translated heavy. Significant, weighty in the sense of the concept has merit to consider. It's a very weighty realization, but it's about significance. It's about importance, and they completely missed that. So these are people pretending that they have some concept of Hebrew that are promoting notions that are just wrong. And the point isn't that God is heavy. He's not. He does not have a body. He has no physical existence at all. He is not heavy. He is the antithesis of heavy. He is kabod, significant. The mother of Moshe was named Yochebed. Means Yahweh is significant, or more importantly, that she was significant to Yahweh. When Dode was criticized by one of the many women in his life who were contrary to him, and she said that you are demonstrating that you have no kabed with Yahweh. You are not significant to Yahweh as you claim. And he says, well, then let's go ask the Amma if I'm significant or not. Profoundly important things to understand what this is all about. And significance, being important, being valuable, being able to carry influence is the antithesis of the religious concept of humble and meek. Humble and meek is the far extreme of being weighty and significant.
There were interesting stories in this that they have got to be Talmudic, because for them to continue to go on that their rationalization, their telling of kabod being weighty, they talk about Yah being in the tent and the.
Well, they don't talk about Yahweh. This is strictly this is Hashem maybe.
Sure,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they don't say Yahweh. No, absolutely. But there's stories they bring out, talk about gravity and all these other, and it was like,
it's Kabbalah and Talmudic stories. They're even their spelling of the word removes it from the Torah and takes it into the Talmud. This is a presentation of acupuncture being fraudulent. So you might say, well, why would you bother to talk about acupuncture being completely fraudulent? Because I don't think there's any difference between acupuncture and politics or religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he was able to demonstrate is that if you have a genuine test of acupuncture, that there is no scenario where there is a correlation between acupuncture and success. None. Doesn't matter if the acupuncturist trained for 20 years or trained for 15 minutes. Doesn't matter if they're actually inflicting the needles or they're just giving the sensation of the needles are going in. Doesn't matter where they're placing them. There is no correlation between acupuncture and a remedy for an acupuncture patient. There is, however, one correlation that matters. If the acupuncturist is matter of fact, I've done this 1,000 times before. You sit down, I'm going to put the needles in, and then you're going to go. You pay me the money, you're going to go. If they're perfunctory, and that's compared to an acupuncturist that is congenial, that is uplifting, that says, hey, wow, this is going to be great. You're going to feel much better. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to take good care of you. Then there is a tremendous result. And the only difference is the attitude and the hype, the hope, the connection, this sense of, wow, I am going to be better. And so I identify that with politics and conspiracy and religion.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can listen to this at YadaYah.com and you can find out that there is no basis, no credible basis of any kind for acupuncture. Other than the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would say that applies to religion and politics.
Yeah. Mary Poppins sang a song about it, right? A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So it's the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the placebo effect is so essential in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
This woman is really bright. I'd like to play some of her, but the presentation here, as I have previously identified, and I do like the happy colors on all of the dress. So she's styling for. If you're going to be an influencer, man, I like her. I probably have 10 shirts that look like that. So she is. She's got it together. She's even talking outside. So that takes some courage by itself. She knows her material. This woman does, and she has written research papers that have been very widely circulated, that even the experts from the pharmaceutical industry say, yeah, what she wrote is true, but so what? Okay, yeah, we're not going to argue with it, but who cares? What her research has shown is that those who are treated with serotonin inhibitors as psychiatric drugs for depression are taking drugs without any proven correlation between serotonin and depression. There has never been any evidence of a correlation between the two things of any kind. This is, better life with chemistry, but there's no chemistry behind it. Now, if you could click on and see more before we play this, I'd appreciate it, because I did a quick study on this. And in the United States, this is staggering. 68% of Americans report taking at least one prescription drug daily. Now, essentially, 70% of Americans are taking one or more prescription drugs daily, with 26 per taking 4 more. Better living through chemistry. Annual per capita spending on pharmaceuticals is the highest in the world in the United States at $1,500 per person. Isn't that it's just staggering? Now, that's prescription drug use with 70% participating and 25% taking 4 or more prescription drugs daily. Illegal drug use among American youth, the Gen Z and the millennials, 23% have used illegal drugs. That's excluding marijuana. Excluding marijuana. Yeah, well, I don't view it as that, and I don't care about marijuana as a drug. I view it as probably less significant than beer and wine, and certainly much safer than tobacco. So among American youth, 23% have used illicit drugs. That's excluding marijuana. So it's a quarter of the population. So a quarter of the population is using illegal drugs. 70% of the population is using prescription drugs. We are just completely drugged out of our minds. So now you can play a little bit of what she has to say.
There has been a substantial, to my mind, medical scandal going on over the last few decades, which concerns the mass prescribing of a certain class of drugs, namely antidepressants, which do little good and can cause substantial harm to some people on the spurious grounds that they work by correcting an underlying chemical imbalance. Almost 20% of the population of England take an antidepressant, and almost 1 in 4 women are currently taking them. Many millions of those people have taken them because they believed that a link between serotonin and depression had been established and that antidepressants worked by correcting that. Most people in the psychiatric community and the research community have known for many years that the evidence that there is a link between serotonin and depression is actually very weak. And so a few years ago, I got a team together to look at all the modern research on serotonin and depression. And in 2022, we published this paper, an umbrella review of all these different areas, including research on serotonin metabolites, serotonin receptors, serotonin itself, levels in blood and urine and plasma, and some genetic evidence. And basically we found that none of those areas provided convincing or consistent evidence of any sort of link between serotonin and depression, let alone a causal link. There was a massive public reaction to this paper. People were really interested. The media were really interested in it. It was very widely reported. There was another reaction to the paper, though, and that came from elements of the medical profession, the medical establishment, the Science Media Center, which are an outfit that purportedly put information about science into the public, but happened to be funded partly by the pharmaceutical industry, got together a group of experts after the publication of the paper to tell people that it really wasn't important. We knew that all along, they said. The findings are unsurprising. Elements of the media accused me of being in league with the American gun lobby, which was a surprise to me. One of the most common responses after the publication of our paper was that antidepressants work and it doesn't matter how they work. And I would say that this is false on 2 counts. Antidepressants don't work, or certainly don't work very well. I'll come on to that in a minute. But it seems to be more importantly that it is very important how they work. If you are told that antidepressants are correcting some underlying abnormality in your brain, then of course it makes sense to take them, other things being equal. If you are told that these are drugs that change your brain chemistry, numb your emotions, and may therefore suppress what you're feeling, it seems to me that's a very different prospect. I've been saying for a long time that the way that we understand not just antidepressants, but all the drugs that we use in mental health problems is mistaken. There has been...
Okay. You can tell I like her. This is the kind of individual that I have the most respect for. She's done her homework. She has so much knowledge that she's not afraid to stand up and tell people the truth. And she is going against one of the most profitable elements of society here. And she's doing it brilliantly, boldly, with great confidence. This is really a beautiful thing to listen to. A woman with skin in the game who has put in the time to know her craft and has the courage and wherewithal to tell people the truth with no financial benefit. Here, she is altruistic, my friend.
She's a professional, and she has taken an oath to do no harm. I'm sure that she is medical degreed in some way. So she's still getting paid. She's a professional. I mean,
he's tough. Tough audience, man. Wow, what a tough audience. This is worth seeing because of both the truth that it reveals, that what's happening right now with Muslims marching down the street is happened multiple times before to Jews. It is a travesty that it's promoted under the symbol of that six-pointed star that is purely pagan and is a badge of shame for Israel. And it is a further travesty that Israel is being bombarded by something. This is a very slick production. Bombarded by the idea that Judaism and the phylacteries and the praying to the stones on the wall is a solution, when in fact Israel is now in the midst of the single most vicious attack in its history. Rather than having found the solution in Judaism, no, they're about to undergo the assault of the world because of Judaism. And so this is a very slick piece that begins right, although the symbolism is bad, and ends hideously wrong. I think it's worth playing. Here to Kristallnacht. Same thing. You know, now it's Marxists and Muslims. Then it was Marxists as Nazis. Same exact thing. And this was pervasive, not just in Germany, but throughout Europe. And as a result of Roman Catholicism. And this was the Rome of Roman Catholicism. Well, actually, they were going to the Inquisition first. There was no six-pointed star during the Inquisition, by the way. It's a 15th or 16th century identity with the Hasidic, the rise of Hasidic Judaism in Europe. Now they're going to Rome. All right, Yisrael, Yehuda, Jerusalem. I think it's SPQR, but it's they can't spell.
They got the menorah right.
Yeah, well, the rabbis have subsequently changed that. This is what's so hideous. He's got his Greek beanie cap on. He's got his rabbinical Bach boy. And they're praying to the stones that a pagan man laid. Reprehensible. It's not the solution. You're going into the time of Jacob's troubles. If you read your prophets, you'd know that was the case, and that the single greatest deception that has ever been placed on Israel is Judaism. No, ain't the solution, pal. It's the problem. Oh, that was worth seeing. It's gut-wrenching in how wrong the producers were. How right they were to say that these things have all happened before. And how wrong they were on where Judaism has taken Jews today. To their demise.
What did they leave out? They left out the Hezekiah scene, didn't they? There was no Hezekiah scene of them throwing Tefillin and religious crap out of the temple, was there? Or out of Jerusalem, was there?
I returned to Yahweh, returned to the Torah. Nope. I didn't when 185,000 of the most well-armed and disciplined warriors on the planet had surrounded them. I mean, think of the difference. On 10/7, you have 4,000 Muslims and tenny rompers walking through a fence, most armed with nothing but giggles. And they devastated Israel, played Israel into a horrible mistake. And when Hezekiah was defending Israel with the Torah and celebrating Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim, by ridding all of Yehuda of all religious artifacts, everything that was religious related. There were 185,000 of the best armed soldiers in the world. And God took care of them, eliminated every single one of them with one malach at night. What a difference. A lesson lost on them.
Yahweh?
Yeah, Yahweh's lost on them. The prophets are lost on them. All they've got is their God-forsaken Talmud and the religious mumbo-jumbo that has brought them to this horrid place and at the time of Israel's troubles. Shame. Yeah. This kid here is the living embodiment of zilch for brains. Gen Z, yeah, we had a very articulate John on the program yesterday, and he's identifies with Gen Z, and he's that the kind of the oldest possible he could be in that group. But this is Gen Z, which means zilch for brains. He's got a good microphone. I can give him credit for that. Nice hairstyle too there, pal.
What about the shirt? Can we get a call on the shirt?
I think good black shirt is signifies seriousness. So I've got no issue with the wardrobe or the microphone. I'm not very fond of the hairstyle, but the fact of the matter is the problem is that he has zilch for brains. Play a little bit of it.
So the differences between Jewish denominations, well, Hasidic Jews believe that Satan is the helper of God, so they kind of worship Satan. Kabbalist Jews worship Baal, which is kind of like Satan. Satanic Jews, which is an official denomination of Judaism, read the Times of Israel, also worship Satan.
Absolutely nothing he said is true. Absolutely nothing. And I'm opposed to Hasidic Judaism. I'm opposed to Kabbalah, and I'm opposed to the political bent of the Times of Israel. Not a single thing he has said is true. And that is the notion of the critic who has no skin in the game and who's got no brains between his ears. This is the problem of social media. What a
And yet, a stopped clock is still right once a day, just for the wrong reason. We have Christianity, who worships imaginary Jebus, who was brought about by Paul, who was Satan possessed. We have,
but he didn't mention Christianity, where Paul admits that he's demon possessed, and he created his pretend Jesus in his own image, and he's demon possessed. He didn't mention Islam. So you can't claim the clock was right twice a day here, who is overtly worshiping Satan as Allah. That doesn't work, unfortunately, my friend, because he's accusing Judaism of being satanic, and of the Haredim actually acknowledging Satan as God, or that
God's helper.
Yeah, God's helper. Oh, yeah, that's God's helper. No, they don't.
Right.
And I think they're nothing but parasites, and God despises them. But they're not. Satan is not God's helper, and in Kabbalah, it's a very complex relationship between Satan and Yahweh in Kabbalah. It's totally wrong, but it's so far beyond this numbskull to understand, and there is no actual Judaism that overtly worships Satan. So no, it's just what's wrong with the world today is influencers who know nothing and claim to know something. This guy, we don't even have to play him. He's just typical Christian scum. Christian scum. He wants to condemn Jews for not believing in Jesus. There is nobody who has half a functioning brain that believes in Jesus. Seriously. I mean, to believe in Jesus, you have to be irrational. You have to be ignorant. There is no evidence in favor of a Jesus. There is overwhelming evidence against. And the caricature is nothing but a blend of misappropriating Dode's titles and achievements, creating a counterfeit of Dode, the actual Messiah, chosen one, Son of God and Savior, who was crucified on Passover and fulfilled matzah by going into hell. And so 80% of it is simply robbing the actual Messiah and Son of God and King. And the remaining portion is bringing in large swaths of Dionysus, the resurrection, the man is a god, God is a man. That's Dionysus, baptism, and all these kinds of things. It's Dionysus. Easter week, Dionysus. And so it's just a blend of those two. And it's such an obvious blend of those two. And the Christian New Testament is so contradictory, so filled with rational fallacies, and doesn't have anything. I mean, it has nothing to support it. When they try to usurp Yahowah's credibility, they don't know his name, and they misquote him 100% of the time. It's just utterly stupid, pal. And you're evil, pal. And I'm going to tell you, you have a confirmed reservation in Sheol. I've checked.
Helping others get there as well, isn't he?
He is. So this is the one where he's really not on his game, but as he is claiming that oil is breaking the system, and what my response is that Trump's continued lies about having won the war. In fact, this is actually I don't think this is the first position where he if this is the one that I'm thinking of, he may make a bad decision about Israel early on. But what he's basically saying in this is that oil should be going through the roof because we have not had transit of oil through the Straits of Hormuz except to China for 90 days. And so the price of oil should be upwards of $200 a barrel. And it isn't. It's less than $100 a barrel. And what he has done here, and this is the same fellow, he's a very effective economist. What he has recognized, and it actually is, while it's not widely known, it is very easily discerned that the reason oil is not at $200 a barrel is because of shorts. If you don't know what a short is, I can tell you that it is actually devastating to economics. It shouldn't be allowed in the market. It will absolutely destroy the value of something, and do it strictly by the manipulation of money. And so to keep bent crude futures from rising to the natural level, Trump has a cadre of wealthy individuals, his own family, and these tech oligarchs who are part of the Godfather scheme of get rich. They are shorting bent crude futures. But that only works if the price occasionally goes down, so that you short it at a certain price, the price has to come down. Otherwise, you have to deliver and you go broke. So what is Trump doing? He is routinely, some 50 times in this crisis, he's claimed that the Strait's going to be reopened, that he's won the war, and that he has an agreement, he has a peace deal. He has claimed it some 50 times. And so every time he does this and he claims he has a deal, the price of crude futures go down, and those who have placed the shorts can remove their positions.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play the game all over again. And then when they have to come due, he comes up with another lie, and they remove their position. In this way, the futures of Brent crude stay artificially low, and those who are on Trump's gravy train, part of the mafia here, these insiders who are the tech oligarchs primarily, they get filthy rich. They know when they buy on shorting after bad news, and they remove their positions knowing exactly when Trump is going to spew out, I've solved the war, I've won the war, I've cut the deal, the Strait's going to be back open. I don't know if you know it last night, but it's definitely not open. The Iranians took out I think it was a British merchant ship, torched it, trying to sneak around to Oman, and they just torched it, said, no, it's not open because you haven't honored the deal. So this is the position that he is articulating here, and you can't argue with him. He doesn't specify who the players are because, well, maybe he wants to continue to live to do this show. But you can play a little bit of this. It's really quite articulate.
Why is the paper price of oil still pretty low, especially after we learned that ceasefire talks failed? Oil prices should have gone up, right? But they went down. And the best theory that explains this suggests that someone placed huge bets that oil prices would fall around the ceasefire announcement. In fact, they're doing an investigation into it. Those are called short positions. Now remember, a short position in oil futures means that eventually, when that contract expires, you either close it out or you have to actually deliver physical oil. And the theory is that the ceasefire may have been partially engineered to give whoever placed those shorts one last window to exit their positions before the physical reality makes the paper price really impossible to hold. Chris Martinson said whoever it is that's dumping paper oil futures cannot actually deliver the oil when the time comes, and maybe they don't have any intention of delivering it.
Right now, the oil price is being heavily contained and capped by someone. Everybody knows that it's the United States government somehow, either directly or through proxies, has been actively suppressing the price of oil, which they could only do for about another week here before it starts to really blow up on them, figuratively speaking.
What that means is someone is selling promises of oil at $100 a barrel, knowing they will never actually produce said oil. They're using the paper market as a psychological tool to calm the market down. But when those contracts come due, when the buyer says, okay, where's my oil? There will be a forced buying event. The entity that sold those contracts will have to buy them back at whatever the market price is at that moment. So if physical oil is at 130 or 140 or whatever it is, that's what they'll pay. That will be a short squeeze. And it's one of the mechanisms that can cause the paper price to catch up to the physical price very, very fast. Now, the next question is, what happens to the market? This is not the first time in U.S. history where there was an oil crisis, because it's happened before. Now, there is a famous saying in investing that says, the past is not a guarantee of future results. Just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But they also say, even though history doesn't repeat itself, it does sometimes rhyme. So it's worth taking a look at what history tells us we should expect.
Yeah, we can
Here's a chart.
But yeah, you can cut it here. The presentation here is that this is insider trading. Trump is manipulating the markets for his own agenda, but they are real investors playing this game who have inside knowledge of what he's going to do and say before he does it. And that would include his children and the oligarchs that he has manipulated around him. That's who is in this game. It happens to be a very serious crime, because if you juice the game, then there are no public investors. Then the markets are not free; they're manipulated. You've heard of Shoeless Joe Jackson and the Chicago Black Sox and cheating on the game, and you can't bet on baseball because it means that those who are betting on baseball are not playing in a level playing field if the players themselves are in the game. Well, that is what is illegal, and it deserves some of the harshest jail terms there are. And Trump is playing, and so are the oligarchs. They all could be investigated, indicted, and convicted, and serve long prison terms. They can't buy themselves their way out of it for this. And there's a paper trail of what they're doing. So whether the SEC under Trump's administration will allow that investigation to proceed or not is one story. But without Trump in power over the SEC, all of his children and his oligarch pals would go to jail. This is serious crime.
Martha Stewart went to Club Fed for it.
Yes,
I think this is a. I don't discount that there is absolutely Trump tries to manipulate the markets 100%, talking down oil prices because it's good for him politically. Absolutely, those closest to him know when these things are going to happen. A lot of this chart makes no sense to me from where we know in the real world. I see this as buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay. This chart makes no sense to me. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Okay. That's a fact. There is nothing on the horizon that shows that the Strait of Hormuz is going to open up the way it was before. It was going to open up under Iranian control now. That's a fact. That's going to happen. There are smart people that do trading that know these things. I see no reason that this can be back down to almost pre-war levels of $70 a barrel. It just absolutely blows my mind that that's even possible. That discounts the 3 months of oil that is backed up in the system.
Then you didn't understand the message that was delivered there. You don't understand how shorts work. The fact that you just dispatch this as Trump is manipulating the market is not a crime, and it would not deliver these results. The only way these results are delivered is that he has insiders who are shorting the stock and releasing them from the shorts based upon foreknowledge of what he's going to say and when he's going to say it. And so it is the effect of the short that has caused this. And those playing the short have been able to extricate themselves profitably because they know what Trump's going to say before he says it. And they're manipulating the market deliberately, which means the commodities market is no longer a fair game. It's being manipulated by Donald Trump and played by the insiders in his tech oligarchs. And this is a very serious crime with long jail terms.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did the Morgan brothers try to so-called corner the silver market years and years ago? Okay. What kind of, because they have to put this cash up at $70 a barrel. What kind of cash does it take to move a global oil market like that? I mean, we're talking tens of trillions of dollars. Yes?
No, not trillions. No. It's not even billions of dollars of shorts will cause this effect. No, it's they're playing the commodities market. The manipulation of the silver market was done by people in the commodities market, and they didn't have the voice of the president orchestrating what they were doing. And they were two brothers that were doing it, as opposed to a collection of tech oligarchs who have signed a deal with the devil.
The Hunt brothers.
Yeah, the Hunt brothers. You can't compare what the Hunt brothers did with the silver market, and it backfired on them, of course, with what Trump is doing with his tech oligarchs on the primary commodity of the world, oil. And this is proof that they are, in fact, in cahoots together and have collaborated. And it's devastating because it means that the markets are no longer credible and that Trump is a criminal, as are the tech oligarchs and as are his children. And that the SEC, as a part of the administration, is no longer a reliable watchdog. It means a lot of things, and it's all of those things, and it's really, really serious. That means that as they manipulate the currency and do other manipulations with their Bitcoin derivatives, there's not going to be any disclosure, and there'll be tremendous criminal activity pursuant to insider trading.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah, it isn't that a big. The players in the club are filthy rich, and yes, we are not in that club, but it is not a big club. It's a very small group of people. A significant number of them were on that transport into China, where Z said, "No, I have no interest in meeting any of them. They can all just get back on the plane and go back home." So that's Trump's club.
Yeah.
This one is short. It is sweet. It is delicious. It's being delivered to Jordan Peterson. This is Godsad. He is absolutely, unequivocally on his game. What I find so delicious about it is he's telling a man who is overtly religious, who is guilty of this very thing, this news, and Gordon Peterson can't do anything but swallow his tongue. Listen to, now this is the man yesterday, I think is when we played his it's either yesterday or the day before, we played his thing on Islam, saying that there had been 47,000 Islamic attacks since 10/7. And then in every single one of them, the Muslims had confessed to the crime, screaming Allahu Akbar, although he didn't say Allahu Akbar, but said they confessed to the crimes. And that every one of their crimes was mandated in their holy books, although he didn't say Quran and Hadith, but that's what he said. And that this delusion in the West over we don't want to hold Islam accountable for the crimes that Islam is mandating and perpetrating is essentially suicide. That was his position, and I think we played yesterday, if not yesterday, the day before. Here's another one on that delusion of religion and why there is no solution to overt religion, overt politics, overt conspiracy. If you're caught in any one of those three things, there is no reaching you. Evidence and reason are wasted on you.
There is no ends to which people will go to in order to maintain the coherence of their current belief system, irrespective of the amount of contrary evidence that they are exposed to, because then that triggers cognitive dissonance. And as a matter of fact, paradoxically, what often happens, as I'm sure you know, Jordan, when I expose you to contrary information, it only solidifies your position. There is no.
Yeah, that might be worth playing a second time, because Jordan Peterson is he's a propagandist for Orthodox Christianity, which is a position that cannot be defended, of which is a position where, you know, in the serious goddamn religion, I have released, well, just on Christianity alone, I have presented 5 volumes. This is just one of 5 volumes, averaging about 750 pages apiece, to completely repudiate everything in the Christian New Testament. Everything. I mean, I leave no stone unturned. I completely destroy everything that Christians believe. Now, I don't leave Christians without a God. I tell them who God actually is, and I don't leave them without a Messiah. I tell them who the Messiah actually is. But everything in the Christian New Testament is absolutely untrue and easily shown to be untrue. And this man, God Saad, is telling a man that is one of the most influential proponents of Christianity that there is no amount of evidence or reason that he is capable of processing, and that even with irrefutable evidence that his religion is false, he won't reject it because he's incapable of thinking about it because of the cognizant dissidence, and that a challenge to his religion, rather than causing him to say, what a gift you have given me, thank you for releasing me from the lie of that religion, actually causes them to be more aggressive against the person who is delivering that sentiment. It's brilliant.
Peterson didn't have a lot to say, though, did he?
There is no answer for this for a person of conspiracy, of overt politics, or of religion. He is absolutely right. So what they do is they deflect, and then they, after deflecting, they will galvanize their resistance to this. Now, he is not doing what I have done. What he is doing is stating my conclusion, but without the evidence for it. And that was the same through his accusation against Islam being responsible for up to 50,000 terrorist acts since 9/11, all confessing to the crime. He is delivering my conclusion, but without the evidence for it. I've written 5 books, 4,200 pages of absolute irrefutable proof that Islam is responsible for the terrorist acts that it perpetrates, and it's not a corruption of the religion, it's core to the religion. And the same thing with Christianity. I have proven that it is untrue with the 5 volumes of Twistianity. All of this is free at YadaYah.com. So the difference between he and me, first of all, he is a very influential influencer. He makes a living at this. And second, he is delivering conclusions which are true without the support, and I provide the support. So if you want to know why they're true, go read Twistianity or Goddamn Religion. It's impossible to read either of those books and maintain a position that is sympathetic to either Islam or Christianity. It's impossible. And no one will ever do it. No one has ever do it. No one will ever do it. They're irrefutable. So we can play what he had to say one more time. Go ahead first. Go ahead and get your comment, and then
there is no ends to which people will go to in order to maintain the coherence of their current belief system, irrespective of the amount of contrary evidence that they are exposed to, because then that triggers cognitive dissonance. And as a matter of fact, paradoxically, what often happens, as I'm sure you know, Jordan, when I expose you to contrary information, it only solidifies your position. There is no...
It's the nature of free will. We have this gift to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I always go, but you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. It's not until people for themselves decide I need to make a change and go look for something else that they will ever come out of it. No amount of outside pressure will ever change a person's mind. Anything that changes in their life, it changes in their own mind first.
Okay. Yahweh has a really effective way of dealing with this. And that is that he has a prerequisite for his covenant. An individual has to disassociate themselves from religion and politics and conspiracy and the family of man before he will even begin an introduction. And until people do that, they walk away from those things which are this impervious wall to evidence and reason, religion, politics, conspiracy, or the militarism, or the impervious wall to evidence and reason, until they make the decision on their own initiative to disassociate from those things. And they are the 1 in 100,000, or sometimes 1 in a million, who are willing to think their way out of the gutter of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Marxism, and conspiratorial nonsense that nothing God has to say will resonate with him, so he doesn't even make the attempt. He never once asks us to go into the gutter of religion or politics and to try to convince those people to accept him as he is. Never once. He condemns them. And he says, this is a pit that you can't get out of. And so he condemns them. He does not try to save them. The only path to a knowledge of salvation is to first walk away from the lies that assure damnation. God's got a very effective way of dealing with this.
Put down the shovel, people.
Yeah, you're burying yourself. Why? Why do Jews always get blamed? It's an interesting piece. You can play a few moments of it, and we can talk about why Jews always get blamed. But they do. Go ahead.
When catastrophe strikes, the mind doesn't reach first for randomness. It reaches first for responsibility. Someone chose this. Someone planned this. Someone can be exposed and someone can be punished. And if someone can be punished, well, then perhaps the world can be made right again. Every civilization develops familiar villains over time. Characters already waiting in the wings of the imagination, ready to explain away whatever needs explaining. For nearly 1,000 years, whenever the West has needed an architect for its tragedies, it's known exactly where to look. The pattern is remarkably consistent. A child dies unexpectedly. Jews murdered him in a secret ritual. A plague sweeps across Europe. Jews poisoned the wells. A revolution erupts. Jews orchestrated it. The banks fail. Jews manipulated the markets. A nation loses a war. The Jews betrayed it from within. The Jews become the hidden hand behind every disaster, the secret power behind every institution. That's what makes anti-Semitism different from ordinary prejudices. Most prejudices portray their target as weak, as inferior or corrupt. But anti-Semitism portrays its target as omnipotent. The Jew is imagined not merely as an enemy, but as the architect behind all of history itself. Every tragedy becomes evidence. Every coincidence becomes proof. Every unanswered question becomes another thread in the same story. The assassination of JFK, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, the USS Liberty, the blood libel, the Black Death, the protocols of the Elders of Zion. 900 years of the same accusation in different forms.
All right. It's not 900 years, it's 2,000. The worldwide propensity to ignorantly, irrationally, and immorally blame God's people, the Jews. And they aren't Jews, they are Yehud. They're only Jews by conspiracy of their own. They have lied about who they are. They have imagined themselves to be different than they are. There is no such thing as a Jew. There is Yehud, and they ought to go back to Yehud in a hurry. But what happened is that Christianity happened. Paul conceived a counterfeit Messiah, robbed Yehud and Yisrael of the actual Messiah, the actual Son of God. And he then, after robbing them of their Messiah and of the actual Son of God, who is dubbed the King who will return, then Paul wrote that this man became a god, and that men, Jews in particular, crucified this God of his. It was amongst it begins with just very crude identity theft and thievery. And then it grows into absolute delusional nonsense that man is a god, that God becomes a man, and that men can kill God, and that Jews were the ones who crucified the God of Christianity. It's got to be the dumbest foundation of a belief system in the history of religion, and there's a lot of stupid ones. But it is this lie that permeates the Christian New Testament that Jews killed the Christian God, and that the Christian God therefore renounced Jews and replaced them with the Gentile church. Again, unfounded, again, absurd, unevidenced, irrational, grossly immoral. But that's what they claim, and that's what they wrote in their New Testament. And as a result of that, that is why over the last 2,000 years, Jews have been blamed for everything that has happened throughout Europe. And it was rabbis who created Christianity, and it is rabbis who have created Islam. And so it's just this ongoing spiral that can all be right back, not just to Paul and his Christian New Testament that turned an actual man, Dowd, the Messiah and Son of God, into this counterfeit Jesus, and then the counterfeit Jesus into a God, and then proclaimed that the Jews crucified that imaginary God. But it was the rabbis, the Jewish rabbis, who didn't nip it in the bud, who didn't say, no, the text that you're quoting, you've misquoted every one of them. And they say exactly the opposite. And what you're perpetrating here is identity theft. This is a very crude scheme, and there's no basis to it. But they didn't. They promoted another false Messiah of their own in Bar Kokhba. And then a few hundred years later, they wrote the Babylonian Talmud and sold sections of it to Muhammad, and he created the Quran, and we start the whole thing all over again. And so you want to know why Jews are blamed? It's because of the rabbis. That's the answer. They're blamed because of the rabbis. If there were no rabbis, there'd be no Christianity, there'd be no anti-Semitism, there'd be no Judaism, there'd be no anti-Semitism. The rabbis are responsible. You need to deal with the rabbis.
I concur with you 100% on that. I was trying to think back in my own mind, because you're going 2,000 years, and I'm thinking about Egypt. That was, in my mind, the first blame the Jews moment, that we need to enslave them lest they're going to grow up and be more powerful than us from within. You know, to blame Jews as a whole.
That was actually prompted by a whole lot of other events. The Hishaks had just been overthrown. There was a deeper African culture that had taken control of Egypt, and it was during Hatshepsut's rise that they were overthrown, and that's when Thutmose the Great served as a general during that time, and he became the pharaoh of the Exodus. But during the time when they first were overthrown, I think it was Amos that was the pharaoh, and because they had seen people amongst them come and usurp their authority and their power, they began to look at these Jews who had been there centuries, who had been productive and neighborly and the like, and they viewed that, well, we can regain what we lost by stealing everything that belongs to them, enslaving them, making them our workforce, and that will help us reclaim the power and fame we once had. So yeah, it was a conspiracy of sorts, but it was more of just a reaction to what they had endured and how they were going to greedily restore what they once were. And the Jews got caught in the crosshairs. And of course, the Jews during the Exodus were obnoxious towards Yahweh, but that did not create anti-Semitism. There's not a single Christian that condemns Jews for being obnoxious to God during the Exodus.
This is true.
No, they don't know the story, and it's never mentioned in Judaism, but that is the story of the Torah, is Jews being obnoxious. And as a matter of fact, there isn't. Christians want to believe that they're an Abrahamic religion and think of Abraham as this great friend of God, but Abraham was a numbskull, and the whole beginning of this is just a tremendous mess. Man's doesn't have much to offer. It takes a lot to overcome the actual stories that are in those books. I think it's one of the reasons why the story of Ruth and Boaz is such an anomaly, is so astonishing, is that every character is grossly flawed. Gross.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham, Yishak, Jacob, the 12 sons of Israel, they're all grossly flawed. And the Exodus is is a total shit show. Let's just call it what it is. The children of Israel are embittered towards God and antagonistic towards him and Moshe. And it's the entire trip. And at the end of that, you've got the period of Joshua where they don't listen to God. And it's just one disaster after another. And then you have the time of the judges that ends it so badly. And there's just one shining moment, a bright, shining moment, a love story, a story that should never have been able to have occurred between Boaz and Ruth. And then you have Naomi representing Israel. She's embittered. She calls God evil. She's everything that's wrong with Israel. You know, the rabbis want to present Ruth as converting to Judaism. No, she didn't accept Judaism. She destroyed Judaism. And it's just an amazing story in the midst of such darkness. See, even the story we get up to Dode and or Samuel. Samuel starts off well and just becomes really, really ugly. And then you look at Dode; it starts off well for a few years, and then it gets really ugly. A story of Moshe. I'm not even sure. Well, it did start off well, and then it got really, really ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't understand why.
Self-sublime.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand why it is that it's Jews as a whole that get blamed more so than any other anything, religion, ethnicity, whatever you want to call it. That it's not that we don't. It was the Pharisees or the Sadducees that crucified Jesus, right? It was Jews as a whole, one group that did this. That's the only ones.
I've written a lot. I've written a lot about this. First, if you want to look at history, the Jews are not unlike really any other small nation or ethnicity in terms of Yehud and Yisrael. They have a brief moment under Dode where they were wonderful, and a few years under Solomon, and then it all fell apart. They became a house divided against themselves, as they are right now. And then there was a whole succession of abused by the Egyptians, abused by the Assyrians, abused by the Babylonians, and then abused by the Greeks, and then abused by the Romans. They just happen to be located in the crossroads of the world, which is why they were so afflicted by all of these different people, and they didn't conform particularly well to although they were heavily influenced by all of them. Jews, this concept of anti-Semitism, of just genuinely hating Jews, began somewhat under the Greeks because they viewed that the man's physical body was this glorious thing. They romanced the man's physical body, is why the Christian New Testament embraces Gnosticism and is written in Greek. And they viewed Jews with circumcision of mutilating this glorious male physique, which they fought nude, they competed in their sports nude, their statues are nude, their gods are men in the nude. So it's just this celebration of masculinity and the glorification of the body. And the Jews were from their point of view, mutilating their most precious part. And so they always had this negative, turn down their nose at Jews. And Romans, of course, swallowed the Greek philosophies and perspectives hook, line, and sinker. So they started off with an antipathy towards Jews. And then the Jews rebelled against them, and anybody that rebelled against Rome was ravaged. So Anti-Semitism, though, doesn't begin until the Christian New Testament. That's why I keep on holding up to. Written initially by Paul, the first 14 books were written by Paul between 52 CE and 66 CE at his death, with the first gospel being the gospel according to Paul, written by his two members of his posse, Luke and Mark, and the book of Acts written by his faith healer, Luke. That religion created anti-Semitism as we know it today. So anti-Semitism goes right back to Paul and the Christian New Testament. That is the source of it. It's why the Holocaust happened. It's why Jews were treated and abused under the pogroms and abused in the shtetls and had their lives completely controlled and completely oppressed and subjugated and harassed by the Roman Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. The history of the Roman Catholic Church and what they did to Jews is so reprehensible that when Christians think they are, a peaceful, honorable, gracious, merciful religion, hell no, you're not. What you did to Jews is absolutely despicable, and you did it for 2 centuries. So own up to who you really are. And they did it because Paul and the authors that work for him, Mark and Luke, blame Jews for killing the God of Christianity. What a stupid thought that men can kill God, and that Jews were responsible for crucifixion when they were the victims of crucifixion, not the perpetrators of it. But intelligence has never played a significant role in religion. But that is the wellspring to why Jews got blamed. And they got blamed, of course, throughout Christian, Roman Catholic Europe. Mm-hmm. So you want to know Israel or Jewish, why you get blamed? It's because of Christianity. Let's do one more and we'll call it a day. We've got a big show tonight. This actually is a rather exceptional interview. Not this fellow here. He's just the host of the show. He is interviewing a man that is much more well-read than he is, and he wants to play the devil's advocate in the whole thing. But you can go back up so I can actually read what I wrote about it. I think that's more helpful. What he claims is that Trump is a cult of personality. And the interviewer wants to push back against that, but the man's got some pretty sound points to say that MAGA is really a cult of personality. And my view would be that every political movement and every religion began as a conspiracy and a cult of personality. Every single one of them began as a cult and a conspiracy. And the only difference between cult and conspiracy and religion and politics is the length of time that the cult or conspiracy has endured and the popularity that it has achieved. It doesn't change that it was born as a conspiracy, that it is a conspiracy, and that it is a cult and was born as a cult. Christianity is the cult of Paul. The conspiracy is that Jews killed Paul's God. So it is a conspiracy. It's just now that it's been around for 2,000 years as a conspiracy, and it has become the world's largest religion. So it's no longer considered a cult, even though that's in fact what it is. The same thing is true with Islam, cult of personality around Muhammad. It was a cult of Muhammad, who was a criminal and a sexual pervert and a deviant. And so the same thing is true with political parties and politics. They're cults of personality. Socialists don't know it for the most part, but they're a cult of Marx, who was a very dark individual who wasn't very smart, actually. But they're cults of personalities, and they have conspiracies. Marx was a conspiratorialist. He was wrong about everything. And his communism and socialism, which he professed, was devastating to the human experience. So I would say that if you want to understand the world, what you want to do is get right to the heart of things, that every religion and every political movement begins as a conspiracy and a cult, and they lose the conspiracy and the cult stigma, even though that is what they are. That's how they were born, by being popular and surviving over a period of time. So this is true of Christianity, Islam, and Marxism. You can go far enough and you can hear the person delivering the answers to him, so that our listeners at least know who it was that wrote the book on the cult of Trump.
You wrote a book entitled The Cult of Trump.
For Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you were sort of...
Crickets.
Yeah. Now, we all know, doesn't matter who you are, you don't even... This is not like a political thing. You just know many news organizations, many TV stations, they've just been very afraid to be on the wrong side of Trump. Companies as well. This is not like a... Forget the politics side. They've even said, look, we're not trying to...
You can cut it there. For those that want to hear the whole interview, go to YadaYah.com, go to the blog page, and you'll have the whole interview. The cult of Trump is similar to every other cult and conspiracy that endures the test of time and rises to popularity. And that is, they are all Machiavellian. They all ascribe to the strategy that is presented in The Prince. Machiavelli, writing to future popes that were aristocrats in Italy, said that, in essence, the ends justifies the means. And of the two ways to influence people, either by being very kind to them and them coming to respect you because of your generosity and your kindness, or fearing you because you're a tyrannical terrorist and you are abusing them, that overwhelmingly terror and fear are a far more effective means of controlling people, and that all popes should impose terror as the means of control. That's Machiavelli's The Prince. That is Trumpian politics. He destroys those who challenge him. You know, if you step outside of the circle, they see him devour people. And he is exceedingly good at only one thing, at being exceedingly bad. And so when I talked to a congresswoman, I had dinner with her about 3 months ago. And I asked the congresswoman, what is the reason why the Democrats, she's a Democrat, can't effectively marshal an opposition to Trump? Because you can't. Why? And she says, because Congress is divided fairly evenly between two groups. Those who are Trumpites, they're in the cult of Trump, and those who are scared to death of him. We're paralyzed. We see what happens when someone opposes him. And so the cult of Trump is marshals on because there are very few people who are able to bring the goods against him. Yeah, there are a lot of Democrats that say, you know, we just hate him, but they do have Trump derangement syndrome. They hate him because he is not them, and they are incapable of explaining what it is that makes him evil or wrong. And for somebody to have a foundation of this is why he is wrong, this is what he is doing, this is where it's going to lead, is a more methodical, foundational criticism of Trump than anyone in a position of influence is willing to deliver, because of the terror that Trump and his MAGA will inflict on that individual. And the fact that such an individual has a 0% chance of being productive or effective in the general popularity scheme of things, particularly in social media. And I would go one step further, is to say that we're in a position now where there is literally no hope. Literally no hope, not from any source. There is no hope. We cannot reach people in an algorithm of AI that is so caustic to the truth and to reality on X, Facebook, or YouTube. It cannot be done. Impossible. And there was a time when I first went on the internet where you could position yourself through talk radio into an audience online, because there were not as much competition, and you could use what was a very effective tool to reach people, talk radio, to bring them to a website, which is how everybody that's really part of the covenant came in. Talk radio has been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And the internet is now so broad that it's dominated by the 20 social media outlets. So there is no hope of reaching a meaningful number of people. None. There is no tool that you can use to do it and be effective. And then you can say, wait a minute, you say there's no hope. What about in YAHOWAH? Well, in YAHOWAH, there's no hope. There is reality. There is expectation. Mm-hmm. There is confidence. There mm-hmm. is an absolute assurance of the desired result. So with YAHOWAH, there is assurance. With every other avenue, there is literally no hope. We cannot fix politics. We can't fix religion. We can't fix conspiracy. We cannot fix social media. Can't fix the internet. We can't fix the deprivation of reason and logic among the last two generations, which are devoid of it. We can't fix the fact that most people don't want to read anymore. Mm-hmm. These things are not fixable. And I'm convinced that the reason that YAHOWAH told me, I want you to go into this den of thieves, and I want you to make a ruckus, and I want you to do that until you reach a point where you realize that there is no merit to it. You will have done what can be done. We will have done what we could do, and then we will come back to building this archive of this website, of the books and of the blogs and of the communication, internal communication and the timelines and the actually disciplined AI that will produce really some really outstanding results when you post an inquiry. We'll have this enormously valuable library, and it will be there. But then we're going to pull you out, because there is no hope that you're going to have any effectiveness beyond what you've already achieved. You can bring covenant members up to speed so that there are more of them that God says I can trust, and therefore I can pull out of the 3D world and bring into the 7D world, because we have created an environment where they can prove their value, their worth, their actual character. So we're doing that. We're creating the ability for more people to prove that they belong and to educate covenant members. But there's nothing else we can do at the moment. And this is going to be true over the next 3 years. And the reason YAHOWAH is changing tactics over the last 3.5 years and taking two guys and putting them on top of the Temple Mount, restoring the tent of the witness, and having the Megatron above them with his message, the Nesh, scrolling, is he is going to communicate apart from any algorithm. They're going to be bold. They're going to be undeniable. They're going to be irrefutable. They will be there. And the message is not going to be subtle. It's going to be blunt, and you speak it against it, you're going to be incinerated. And they are not going to be normal by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be the two most influential people in the history of the world. And yet, virtually everyone's going to reject them and vehemently oppose them. That's what we're headed towards, but at least the message is going to get out. And even then, there'll maybe be a few thousand people that participate in the Towrah gleaning, and perhaps a few thousand people that are part of that mortal remnant at the end. And even that mortal remnant will be of babies, essentially zeros, empty, clean slates going forward. But that's the plan, there's no reason for us to stay beyond equipping more covenant members to prove to Yahweh they can be trusted, and to equip them so that they're ready for deployment. Tough. You got to be tough. You got to be in the game. You got to make mistakes. You got to stub your toe. You've got to fall down and get back up. Yeah, you've got to be well informed and devoted to the job, and show some steadfastness for God to trust you. So we've created the environment where that's possible for a significant number of people. And we have built this tremendous library of vlogs and books, unlike anything in the history of the world. And as we create these audio books now with the AI, it's going to be even more powerful as a site, particularly linking the printed books and the page turners, the electronic page turners, and the audio. It's going to be extraordinary. And these programs we're doing, and now the family, permeating a family page on the website, so that there are many voices, and they get to hear it from various levels in terms of where people are in the covenant relationship. But there's nothing we can do over the next 3 years, which is why we're being withdrawn from Shabuah, June 11th, the Shabat of 2027, and not going to return until the 18th of April on Passover in 2030. There's just no point to it. We're going to be restored, refreshed, re-equipped, ready to go. But no reason to be here over that period of time. It's not like God is saying, I'm going to abandon my people formally. It's just that there's nothing. Rich has gone back on X to say everything he told you was going to happen, when he told you was going to happen, Israel, how he told you was going to happen. The whole betrayal story is now precisely true, and it's irrefutable. So why don't you listen to him? How many positive responses have you gotten, Rich?
Maybe a few dozen now.
Okay, so a few dozen.
Are not. I don't recognize them as the covenant users, but it's rare and in between. And I'm not going to stop. I'm writing right now. It takes me a long time to write. So
yeah, okay. So anyway, that's where we are, and that's why God has this plan to rally us together. I think this transition, which you are an essential part of enabling other members of the covenant to express themselves and to demonstrate that they're willing to engage. They're willing to put their face out there. They're willing to share their voice. This is essential. Without that, God doesn't have any reason you can trust them. I mean, you can be a really good reader. You can be a really thoughtful person. But if you're not making a contribution, God doesn't have any reason that he's going to say, I'm going to take that person at this time out of 3 dimensions and bring him to 7. Now, the nice thing is that if you happen to be someone who considers themselves covenant because of what you have accepted, but you haven't acted to the degree that God's able to do that, and there's really no excuse, because you are, and I am, and Joe is, and Leah is, and Rich is, and Perry is, and many of us are creating the environment where it's now possible to take that next step. But if you miss it, you know what's coming. You can be there on Towrah. You're perfectly suited. It's just going to be a rough go over those 3 years that we're gone, but you're going to be positioned, and you're going to have a chance to demonstrate and prove yourself. And then we're all prepared to deal with the remnant. on behalf of Dode. So yes, God is going to remove us, and it's to allow His people to hit rock bottom and to be up against a wall, so that there are at least a few that are in a position to listen.
And I realized that 2 years ago now. I mean, you couldn't make me go away. Even with the old team, I had to reach out once, twice, 3 times and bug Mary, Jackie. We're done with the glossary. What next? What next? What next? Was getting crickets from them. And then I had to reach out to Leah online and had to continually reach, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? You never once came to me. Now, this isn't me being altruistic. This is me realizing that I need to have skin in this game. You need help.
Yes.
I can help. I'm in a position. And I beat down to your door and say, where can I fit in? What can I do for you?
Right. And we didn't have the gatekeepers anymore. So when Leah heard your request for involvement, she not only passed it on to me, but somebody, and it may have been Leah, but somebody told me that you were sparring with the most absurd, the most maniacal of the people we've encountered along the way, and that you were correctly and effectively sparring with them. And I read some of the things that you wrote. So, this guy, he can really think. This is a man that knows Yahowah, is rational, and is not afraid to take a stand. And so I asked Leah to give you my phone number and for you to call me, because we were in a position we needed to make a transition. And you and Rich are the 2 people at that moment who stood above all others. And I said, okay, well, this is our team. We'll go forward with these guys.
Yeah, but I was sitting back in Kansas City thinking I was pretty cool coming up with something clever on X.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to be enough.
Yeah, you were my principal enabler on X.
And then you contacted Mariah to email me.
Yeah, I said.
And it was like getting called into the office.
Yeah, you're going to call into the principal's office. Yeah, and we in the same exact situation. I said, okay, gentlemen, you've volunteered. Consider yourself volunteered. Now this is for real. This is what we're going to do with this, and I'm going to go all in with you. I think you're genuine. You're both guys. I think you're genuine. We're going to go all in. Let's go. This is what we need to accomplish. And at that point, there was really only one more thing that we needed to resolve, and that is that my friend Joe, who was so essential to our first website, but had kind of fallen on some rough times and got himself in a bit of a rut. We needed to get our good buddy Joe's attention again, and we've had that, and it's made a tremendous difference. And now we have, like Matt Perry has moved here. He's the one who is, Joe is driving the audiobooks and the page turners from a position that is going way beyond what anyone else has ever done. We spent hours going through his system, and I know there's others that are working with him in that system, but oh my God, that system is so complicated that it's going to be something that Joe's going to have to brute force himself through, because he's realized how many problems there are with the AI text to speech modules, and he has come up with a very sophisticated plan to deliver the goods. But at the same time, he is never going to be able to do 40 books. So we have 2 programs working together with Perry's and working with Rich to create the books that are not they're not the big priority. That text to speech, I need Goddamn Religion and Twistianity, both of those done in text to speech, because it is not something that I want to have to do ongoing shows. We did almost 100 Twistianity shows and didn't even get through volume 1. So I've done 30 Islamic shows, and the difficulty is if I actually do more of them, we put ourselves in more and more jeopardy with Facebook and the like. And these things we can have on our own website. They're buttressed by the evidence of the books. They're never separated from the books. And so this is the way to present those. And so Perry is focusing with Rich on the Coming Home series, which is, something we wouldn't get to in the others for a period of time. But that's our current effort. And it's all revolving around a website. And listen, I realize that when we open the door and say, I want all of you contributing, I want you all talking, I want you all doing shows. These are the tools. They're fairly simple. They're fairly easy to use, and you can be self-taught. And other people, we need to join Leah and creating graphics and branding and the like. And when we did that, we knew that we're going to have people write themselves into God's story, and we'll have people write themselves out. It's just the reality of it. And, I've been doing this long enough. I've got thick enough skin that I can handle the stripes of those who choose to write themselves out. And for the most part now, those who are just obnoxious, I block, and I don't even bother to consider anymore. They're not worth the time. We've had enough insider attacks where God's come up with the answer that I say, all right, we'll just stick to our knitting. We've got a job to do. Let's get this job done. And we don't have a lot of time to do it at this point. So I appreciate the fact that you are not altruistic. You're doing it for what I think are the right reasons. Yeah, it's you must have 2 years ago come to the conclusion that I've only come to within the last year, that if we're going to get God to take us out of 3D and to 7D, the responsibility is so enormous and the opportunity for both good and bad so great that there is no chance that God's going to do that without being confident in that individual soul. And there's only one way that we can deliver confidence in our souls, and that is to engage and to be steadfast, to make mistakes and to learn from them, to stumble and fall and get back up.
Yeah.
So you figured it out maybe before I did.
We got 348 days and counting.
Yeah, 348 days. I think Rich and Leah count every day. they went out.
It's more to keep an eye on. I know there's still so much to do.
Yeah, there's so much to do. I'm just so grateful that we were right, and that the time of Israel's troubles was going to start on the 22nd of May of this year on Shavuot, and that the harvest was going to be the 11th of June of next year. For many reasons. One is that everything we've said about Trump being Satan and Israel entering the time of troubles, it has been so extraordinarily affirmed. I mean, if you are anywhere near anything that we've been saying for the last 5 years, and you listen to what we foretold was going to happen, and then you're witnessing what has happened, there is so much affirmation. It's overwhelming affirmation. And then we, in addition to having that, we have the time to solidify this website and to create content and to let people prove their worth and grow exponentially in terms of our understanding, which is all happening simultaneously. It's a really good situation to have had this additional year, and I'm grateful for it. And I realize that now there's no reason to stay between that time and the time we return, because we'll be able to augment our resources and books and blogs and that sort of thing while we're in Shamayim, and we're going to gain so much additional just confidence and credibility and knowledge and understanding while we're there. Yeah, we're going to come back and speak at an entirely different level. But we still got to keep it real. You know, God's when He redeploys people, He very often starts at very close to scratch. He just said, I'm going to have the same personality that I know I can rely on, the same attributes I can rely on, the same soul that has proven trustworthy in the past. And very often you each life you have to prove your worth. So that's where we are, and I'm really excited to be there. But on this, yes, pal, Trump is a cult of personality, but he's worse than that. You see, what happened with Trump is that he was a a sexual pervert most of his life. He was a coward most of his life. He was a abject failure most of his life. He was a silver spoon that never amounted to anything except self-promotion. And it's astonishing that such a useless human being was elected president as a narcissist, but he was, and he had a first term that was meaningless. And then he lost the second term, and then he lost every legal encounter to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars and what would have been sentences of jail time. He's a convicted felon, and those were the easy cases. The cases that would have put him behind bars forever were the ones that were upcoming, and there was no chance he was going to prevail in any of them. And so he was in a position where his net worth was evaporating. He was going to lose his freedom and spend the rest of his life in jail. And he had lost an election, couldn't even fathom how that could happen. And he lost it to a comatose man. In fact, when he tried to debate the comatose man's vice president, Cackles, he lost the debate to Cackles badly. So that's why he didn't want to debate again. I mean, this is a horrid human being. And so he made a deal with Satan. Keep him out of jail, keep him from going bankrupt, so he could go on his revenge tour. And his revenge tour isn't just about those who he thinks did him wrong. It's against everyone, including Americans that didn't elect him the last time around or didn't vote for him this time around. And it's the world that didn't kowtow to him. It's everyone. He's on a revenge tour against mankind, and he's going to bring the world to its knees. And he is the corporeal manifestation of Satan. He made that deal. So, Mr. Articulate, very nice microphone that you have there, by the way, of Trump. I can tell you he is Satan, and I can tell you what he's going to do and how he's going to do it and where it's going to lead and what the consequences are going to be. And I don't care what you might think in terms of your opinions. Those are irrefutable future facts. So, gentlemen, thank you. It's been a kind of more thoughtful show than we normally do. We normally have more just morons that we get to obliterate. But these were some really insightful things that we played and spent more time on each individual subject. But I think if you look at what we've done in the last couple of weeks with this program, there has been hundreds and hundreds of really profoundly important insights.
More to come.
Absolutely.
More to come. We'll be back at it on Monday with more of the vlog on the vlog. I don't know if we're going to try to sneak in a luminaries between now and the show. I think not. My voice almost gave out on me yesterday. And so I think I'll go back to Ruth and Boaz. I've finished the translation of this first and second chapter. I finished my commentary and have gone back and rewritten some of it in the first chapter. And I'm now making my way through commentary and insights in the second chapter. And there are times when, you look at something and you struggle for what am I going to say about this is going to have value to somebody. And there's times when your fingers won't move across the keyboard fast enough. And this is one of those times where there are so many insights. It's which ones are you going to leave alone so that you can focus on the important ones. I learned a long time ago, and when I was in a position of marketing and sales, that if you had 20 points that were beneficial to your product versus someone else's, and if you presented all 20, you would almost always lose because you would find that whoever had a different notion would focus on the weakest of those 20, and they would completely ignore the best 10. And so my preference now is let's focus on the things that really matter here. And I'll leave some of the insights to another time and maybe another opportunity. But I can tell you that the Ruth Boaz story is the most important ever told. They are Yahweh's power couple. There's only one person more important to God than Boaz, and he does not succeed without Boaz or without Ruth. So, yes, they are certainly God's most reliable couple are Boaz and Ruth. And they're second only in importance to Dowd. But there is no Dowd without Boaz and Ruth. Literally, there is no Dowd. He would not have succeeded. That's why he goes so far out of his way to speak to Yahweh about his Amma and the role his Amma plays. That's why the most riveting thing that, and I've missed it over and over again until it just got to be gut-wrenching. And that is why Dowd spoke of being born to his mother and relying on his mother's breast in between his depiction of how he was going to be crucified on Pesach and how he was going to endure a journey into hell for a heavenly cause. Why did he speak of his mother that way? And when you realize the answer to that, then you realize just how important Ruth and Boaz have become. And so it's God's most amazing of all love stories. And what he is really telling is his story through them. This is his story with Israel that he is telling through them. And it's so insightful, so prophetic, so profound, so interesting, so unique, so delicious, so sensational. It is, it's really a treat for the eyes and for the mind. So that's what I'm going to go back to. I'm having a grand time. What I hope to do, so that you know, is that, well, I have rewritten significant parts of chapter 1. I have not represented it because I want to present chapter 1 and chapter 2 concurrently. And while I've translated all of chapter 2, I haven't written all the commentary, and I hope to be able to do that as we proceed through maybe tomorrow midday, and that's when I'll post it. And then I'll go into translating and commenting on chapter 3 and chapter 4. And maybe we'll get it done in a couple of weeks. I hope so. We'll see. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to being with you at Family Hour this evening. Do we have a song this evening for Family Hour?
We do. We have a song.
Lovely.
Yep.
Have I ever heard this song?
No, you have never heard this one. Not that I'm aware. Yeah.
Okay. Love it. So we'll see you at Family Hour. We'll debut another beautiful song. And this one has graphics already?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, we're not debuting anything without graphics. I mean, we're not in that kind of a pinch yet. I want to put a complete thing together. You know, if we just need a show and it's, you know, no. I want to have graphics and everything for Shabbat show reveals or whatever. So.
Okay. Do you know who did the graphics for this one?
Yeah, it's Leah by the Well, and it is Depot.
Okay. Leah by the Well and the Depot. So somewhere in here, Depot, who is, at this point, it'd be foolish for me to pretend that I don't have favorites. I know that there's a lot of great contribution, and I'm appreciative of what everybody has done. But yeah, I look at Depot as a son. I mean, I just say, oh my God, what a gift he is. And I understand that for a bit had a Leah and a veil, not veil because of Islam, but veil because of the thought that of a wedding and that sort of thing.
That's a separate video. That's a separate video. But yeah, there was one that he did go back and work on. Yeah, and
and so we've deveiled Leah.
Yep.
Okay, so it's Leah at the Well. I have not heard that song, and I'm mesmerized by the Depot graphics. I think the one that he did where he took us back to 1950s Israel was just awesome. Magnificent. And Absolutely. Then and that was the one on Yahweh's name. Yahweh's my name. Mm-hmm. And then the one that he did for Dust to Fire is theatrical. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's really an exceptional talent. And we have a lot of contributions, and they're all wonderful, and I love all the songs. And look, we probably have 100 songs now that Leah has written, so it's pretty extraordinary. All right, well, thank you so much. Rich is over here. I don't know why there was a comment there, a little bit of a scream, but that's there's the Wook, and he is saying goodbye. Well, he'll introduce. Well, I guess he won't introduce this show, but maybe we'll see him tonight at Family Hour. Good day.
Hey there! Thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.